Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be your host for 3 thrilling hours of breaking news, challenging views and dazzling debate all the way to 10 o'clock. Get on the show, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Monday, November the 24th. Here's what's coming up. After thousands of angry residents filled the streets to protest about the 600 foreign young men coming to the small Sussex town of Crowborough, it emerges that the local army training base at which they will be billeted is to be turned into what critics are calling a wellness retreat for migrants, a veritable holiday camp with a busy schedule of inclusive leisure activities for the residents as they recover from breaking into Britain illegally. Isn't that special? They're actually advertising for a £32,000 a year activities coordinator, along with loads of other well-paid jobs that long-suffering taxpayers will have to fund. Is this what Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood's so-called hardline crackdown is all about? When are we going to stop this crazed, costly generosity towards people who cross the channel unlawfully and demand to stay? 0344 499 1000. In other news, talking of mad spending, we need to talk about the government's deranged access to work scheme, which is ploughing through hundreds of millions of pounds buying expensive stuff for people who have jobs. No matter how much you're earning, Kia's crew will be only too pleased to hand you sunlight alarm clocks, Apple Watches, wobble boards and so much more. Shouldn't those in work pay for this sort of thing themselves? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, the BBC was on the rack yet again in Parliament today as the state broadcaster's beleaguered chairman, Samir Shah, fights to keep his job amid the ongoing corporate clown show after Panorama deliberately doctored film to tell an egregious lie about Donald Trump. And we learn that disastrous duo Tim Davie and Deborah Turness will walk away with £500,000 worth of payoffs between them. The dismal Director General and the hopeless head of news, the architects of the Beeb's downfall, were forced to resign. So, why are they getting huge compensation for quitting? 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, after Health Secretary Wes Streeting announced last December that no more under 18 children would be given puberty blockers, why are 220 kids about to be fed these life-changing drugs in a wide-ranging experiment? Can't we just leave these confused youngsters alone? Doesn't this amount to pharmaceutical mutilation? 0344 499 1000. Also on tonight's action-packed show, the brave female politician suspended from the Australian Parliament for wearing a burqa in the debating chamber to make her point. Naturally, Pauline Hanson has been condemned for alleged racism and disrespecting Muslims, but she wants to ban the burqa. Is putting on a visual display really such a heinous thing to do? And while we're on the subject, how about banning the burqa in Britain? 0344 499 1000. Plus, prisoners win their appeal against solitary confinement because it makes them, and I quote, anxious, depressed and traumatised. Isn't it supposed to do that? So, do we now have judges backing prisoners just because they don't enjoy their experiences behind bars? What did they expect solitary confinement to be? Fun? Doesn't this soft-hearted ruling make British justice look woefully weak and kind of ridiculous? 0344 499 1000. Also, The COP30 con in Brazil agrees nothing whatsoever about fossil fuels. Fine by me, but after 56,000 virtue signallers flew in on planet-destroying jets, including the 450-strong British contingent led by Nut Zero Loon, Crazy Ed Miliband and Never Hear Keir Starmer, shouldn't they have achieved at least something on the climate change front? I mean, anything, as opposed to nothing. 03444991000. And finally, why are people campaigning for the police to stop revealing when suspects for serious crimes are asylum seekers? Don't the great British public have a right to know? Isn't this all about transparency? Opponents say it's racist and sows the seeds of division. What do you think? 03444991000. We'll debate this hot topic later. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Monday night together. And right off the bat, let's go to my first guest for the first 60 sizzling minutes. We will enjoy her company. She is, of course, Talk's brilliant international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Hi, Isabel.
Hi, are we going to be talking about the Australian Parliament stunt in our segment?
Well, you can if you want. I've got that lined up for a little later, but you're very welcome to stick your oar in. Go fire away.
Yeah, it's just I love Australian politics. You know, it's so kind of endlessly surprising and colourful, and this was an extraordinary stunt, and it really worked, didn't it? You know, the woman that donned the burqa in the Australian Parliament was aiming to get attention for a parliamentary bill that I guess she feels is going nowhere in terms of banning the burqa in Australia. And she sure as hell has made headlines. And I think it was quite a clever thing to do, actually. Of course, there's the usual screeches of racism and so on, but I don't see how it was racist. She was just making a point.
Yeah, it's Pauline Hanson is her name, and yeah, you're right. She's of course been condemned as a racist. She's disrespected Muslims, disrespected Islam, all that. But she's a passionate campaigner for the banning of the burqa, bearing in mind that the burqa is banned in a fair few Muslim countries, so this cannot be categorised as Islamophobic. She's making her point. Look at her as she walks across the chamber there. She's got one of those particularly severe head burqas on where you can't see anything, little netting there, and she's saying this is restrictive for women. It consigns women to the ranks of second-class citizens. It's against equality. She says it's an affront to a modern democracy. I tend to agree. We need to have that debate here. And what is wrong with a bit of, you know, display, showcasing her point? What is wrong with that? That's not racist, is it?
Well, I don't think so. I think that she powerfully got her message across. You know, what is right for a country like Australia maybe is, of course, very different for what is right for Saudi Arabia, and that's for their you know, their people to make up. But in Australia, it's a very, very different culture, and she's got a legitimate point. There are plenty, as you say, I'm not aware of any Muslim countries that ban the burqa. I can't quite see why they would, but maybe I'm wrong about that. But there are plenty of modern democracies that take a dim view of it, including in France. So, yeah, I think it's a perfectly reasonable debate to have for Western countries, or any country, really. You know, why not talk about it?
Well, our guest at 8 o'clock is a Muslim lady who is against the burqa. So call her Islamophobic if you want to, folks, because that would be very absurd. It isn't just non-Muslims who are against the burqa. Millions of Muslims hate them. Muslim countries have banned them. Other countries have too, so I think we in Britain should talk about it. Listen, let's also tonight, if we may, Isabel, talk about Crowborough. This is the East Sussex town, the rather small town, nice town, rural, beautiful, expensive area, where the local residents, weekend after weekend now, are filling the streets with angry protests. Yesterday or over the weekend, thousands of residents filled the streets protesting against the fact that their local army training base Crowborough Army Base, where they train recruits, is to be turned into a billeting centre for 600 foreign young men. Now, that is annoying them in themselves, because they're saying, well, if people tell us there's no threat to our safety, why are women in the area being issued with rape alarms? They feel that this is an affront to safety in their town, that it will, completely upend the peaceful harmony of Crowborough. So they've been protesting about this, but they've also found out that this camp will be, critics call little more than a wellness retreat for migrants who broke into our country illegally. So they're going to be given free art classes, sports events, well-being sessions, and so on and so forth. And they're advertising now for a £32,000 a year activity coordinator who will be in charge of a weekly and monthly calendar of activities which will be, and I'm quoting, inclusive, culturally sensitive and aligned with migrants' needs and interests. Other jobs available at this newly converted army base will include 5 site managers. They'll all be on up to £60,000 a year. A security team leader on £44,000 a year, and 15 basic security officers, all on £35,000 a year. So this is a very expensive operation, but what people are saying is, why do they need to have art classes, sports events, and I'm not making this up, well-being sessions? What is this about? Why we're going to hire someone for 32 grand a year to organise all of this? This is not supposed to be a holiday camp. This is not supposed to be, as critics say, a wellness treat for illegal migrants. What's going on here, do you think, Isabel?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you what's going on. Well, a couple of things are going on. Number one, there's mounting alarm in government, as well there should be, about what bored asylum seekers are getting up to when they're left to their own devices. And we know what the worst of the worst get up to. And, I'm sure that the best of the best and the respectful ones, sit quietly in their rooms in these hotels or other facilities. But the reality is, you've got a lot of young men jam-packed together in these facilities for hour on end, and the devil makes work for idle hands. They've got nothing to do. They're not supposed to be working, although we know very well that many of them, perhaps even most of them, are working illegally. And then when they're not working illegally, they're kind of drifting around, which is not nice for local communities. It can be intimidating. It doesn't produce anything. So what this is all about, the security is obvious. We know why that's needed. We've seen the footage of all the fights that break out. And often I'm told these fights are along national lines. You've got Eritrea having a fight with Sudan, and maybe they'll
Shouldn't really laugh, but there is something quite funny about this.
Maybe there'll be a conflict between I don't know, Chad and whatever other neighbouring countries there are. These conflicts playing out within the UK. It's not exactly ideal, is it? So that's the one thing that's happening. The second thing that's happening is that there's an absolute racket going on here of opportunistic, frankly, maybe quite smart, enterprising companies who want to get on board this gravy train. And, they're finding a very receptive hearing from the Home Office and the Border Force and all the others that make decisions about what kind of extras need to be paid for. And so this is an industry. We know this. It's a burgeoning industry. It's actually one of the few growth areas in the British economy.
Well, exactly right. Now, and also it sort of brings into sharp focus exactly how hard line Shabana Mahmood's migrant crisis crackdown really is. I mean, as long as we're offering them, you know, leisure activities and art classes and well-being sessions, you know, to make sure that a weekly and monthly calendar of activities are inclusive, culturally sensitive and aligned with migrants' needs and interests. There's nothing hardline about that, is there? This is the whole problem. We make Britain and the places we put these asylum seekers so attractive that hundreds of thousands of them keep coming. They keep on coming because we make life so wonderful for them. This is nothing more than a holiday camp. As long as this sort of thing continues to go on, and we know it's happening everywhere, we know what these people are given when they get here, the generosity that is showered upon them. You know, I'll run through it again. As soon as they get here, they get 50 quid a week welfare. They get free accommodation, often in 4-star hotels. They get free food, free doctors, free dentists, free lawyers. Many of them get free driving lessons, free trampoline lessons, free trips to the local zoo, sporting events, and so on and so forth. We treat them like kings and queens. You know, welcome to our country. What can we do for you? We spent £6.6 billion giving them free gifts over 5 years in something called the Asylum Seeker Support System scheme. I mean, we cannot have a Home Secretary go around saying, right, cracking down. When this nonsense goes on, as long as we offer them all of this ludicrous generosity, thousands and thousands and thousands of them are going to keep crossing the channel, right?
Well, obviously, because there's just very little jeopardy. I mean, the only risk, and it's not an inconsiderable one, it's very real. The only risk that they really face is if they can survive the living as waiting for the boat in northern France, which is not a particularly pleasant experience. You know, the only risk is the peril of the high seas, which again is massively mitigated because we actually operate a taxi service. You've got the French warship and the French agency sort of hovering while migrants board boats and making sure that nobody's in grave danger. And then you've got the border force vessels that pick them up halfway across the channel and bring them to the UK. You know, what is the risk? Statistically, the chances of being returned are very much odds against. And in the process, while the government makes its decision, which it may take literally years to do, everything's paid for. So if you're from Sudan, where there's currently a civil war, or if you're from Eritrea, where if you've got no skills, you're not earning more than a few dollars a month, why wouldn't you come to Britain? It's completely logical.
Exactly right. Now, in one more example of ludicrous leniency, it turns out that migrants, they come here when they're trying to take their British citizenship test, that lots of them been cheating by using imposters, hiring imposters to pretend that they're them, and then taking the exam. And loads of them, not being perhaps the brightest people in the world, keep getting caught. They keep getting caught sending the imposters in to take their tests for them, and basically all part of Shabana's hardline crackdown, I'm sure. When they get caught, the adjudicators, the authorities say, you shouldn't have done that. Take a test, try another test, try it again. Have another go. What about you sent an imposter in to cheat? Here's the deal. You fail your citizenship test, you don't get to take the test again. This is insane, all of this.
Of course, cheating and lying should be a total disqualification. Of course it should. But I remember reading the guidance for those who are assessing asylum claims, and it specifically says that lying should not necessarily be a disqualification. I mean, well, yes, it should. That should be immediate grounds for a disqualification.
Yeah, it should. Exactly right. That's so ridiculous. So ridiculous.
I'm afraid this sort of cheating is prolific in the developing world. You know, it's notorious. For example, people sending imposters to sit their children's exams, for example. And if you import the third world, you import the ways of the third world, and that is what we're doing.
So yes, this is absolutely absurd. We have, with everything we've just been discussing, Britain continues to turn itself into the promised land for asylum seekers, for migrants crossing the channel illegally on small boats. It's the land of plenty, and that's what Shabana Mahmood should be looking at. We don't need a activities coordinator at this centre. We don't need sports events. We don't need arts classes. We don't need well-being sessions. You know, this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Let me know what you think, folks. 0344 499 1000. When we come back, still talking about ridiculous spending, we're going to talk about something called the Access to Work scheme. This is whereby our government, brilliant that they are, have worked out a way to hand people loads of money in benefits, even though they've got jobs. Check this out after the break. Stay tuned.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Sometimes you look around the sort of panorama of madness created by this crazy government and you just think, what next? This is madness. So you've got a government going, oh, we haven't got enough money, oh, we're going to tax you to hell, we're going to tax the backsides off you because we've made such a mess of everything. Oh, if only we had more money. Well, you know, here's an example of some money they could save. £320 million in a single year at last count. This scheme, it's called the Access to Work scheme. Isabel Oakeshott, who I'm talking to now, alerted me to this morning. £320 million was the last bill in a single year. It's spending hundreds and hundreds of millions of pounds. What it does is it hands welfare to people with jobs, benefits to people with jobs. You can actually get as much as £70,000 worth of free stuff from the government to help you, you know, work, you know, to keep you in the right frame of mind to work properly, to help to ease your path into the working world. 70 grand a year. It doesn't matter how much you earn. So if I earned £1 million a year, that'll be the day. But if I did, I can still claim £70,000 a year for things like sunlight alarm clocks, work coaches, noise cancelling headphones, wobble boards, Apple smart watches, and so much more. So many more freebies. The bill for this ludicrous scheme went up by 22% at last count in the last year, helped to some degree by sickfluencers who've been telling everyone online, what you want to do is say you've got ADHD, spread the word. So anyone, regardless of how much they're earning, can climb aboard the Access to Work gravy train. All they have to do, it gets madder, it gets more deranged. All they have to do is claim mental, neurological or physical health conditions, and hey presto, they're in the money. The application form apparently takes 20 minutes, and you don't need medical diagnoses or doctor's confirmation. In other words, you can just make it up yourself. And you can be earning a hell of a lot of money, and the government's very happy to give you 70k more. You know, how about we just end this scheme now and save £320 million and give it to people who really need it? Just a thought.
Well, that's what I would recommend. Scrap the scheme in its entirety. And, you know, the only wonder, given how easy it is to access this type of grant, is that the scheme isn't costing even more. And I fear that now there's been so much publicity about it, it will go through the roof. And I can tell you, Kev, that we've spent much of today trying to get through to an advisor on the Access to Work scheme. And today that's been very difficult. And I suspect it's because the phone lines have crashed under the weight of demand. You know, Christmas is coming. And what better way to get the government to fill your stocking than to claim that you've got ADHD or anxiety and you need some top-of-the-range noise-cancelling headphones. I'm not making this up. That's what you can get. Free gadgets, courtesy of the great British taxpayer. I mean, what absolute cretin came up with a scheme like that, which doesn't involve having to prove it? You don't need any evidence. And I've sat there today and read through the guidance, both for so-called customers. And again, I would say, why are we calling people customers? They're mostly, well, I don't want to use the word I would think of for people that are trying to take advantage of this scheme.
Some people might call them claimants to this scheme, scroungers, freeloaders, but neither of us could possibly comment, right, Isabel? But seriously, carry on.
No, but I've spent the day looking at the detail of this, and you know, this scheme is also open, Kev, to alcoholics and drug addicts. Now, all you need to be able to do is say that you're on a treatment program. You don't actually have to demonstrate that you're on a treatment program. I mean, the treatment program might just be in your own head, but that's the criteria. If you say you're on a treatment program, then you can get all sorts of stuff. And it's a really amazing range of support that is available. I mean, from the latest high-tech sort of AI software to help people who can't concentrate, organize and assemble their thoughts, special tools for brainstorming, special tools to help you articulate and take notes. You can even get, on the taxpayer, half of your job done for you. So let's suppose your employer wants somebody to take on a full-time role, but you happen to have ADHD and you say, well, I really want to work, but unfortunately I can't concentrate for more than half the week. Then the government will help provide someone else to do the other half of the job. I mean, honestly, it just is breathtaking, isn't it? In the week that Rachel Reeves is about to stand up and say, dear nation, we have no money, therefore you have to give more of your money to people who don't work. To find that there's a scheme like this, I find it absolutely extraordinary. Scrap it immediately.
Exactly, because these are people with jobs. If they want to get an Apple smartwatch, they should go out and buy one, like other people with jobs do. That's why you have a job. That's why you have an income, so you can buy stuff. And in unfortunate circumstances, if for some reason you can't find a job or you're unable to work, yes, the state will step in and help. That's only right in a decent Western democracy. But actually paying people with jobs, no matter how much they're earning, up to £70,000 a year to buy gadgets, it's just breathtakingly... It's deranged. It's just deranged. It's Labour. They just cannot wait to take people's tax money and give it to people. They just love redistributing money to those they see are the underprivileged, to the extent that they don't even spot, it seems to me, when they're not the underprivileged. They're people with jobs. Oh, well, give them money anyway. Access to...
In fairness, this actually started a long time ago under the Conservative
government. Of course
government,
it did, yeah.
Which just goes to show why they're in the sorry state they are in the polls. And, the other thing is employers are taking massive advantage of this. I mean, I heard one anecdotal story of employers refurbing their entire office spaces off the back of this. Let's get some swanky new desks and ergonomic chairs, all off the back of the taxpayer because my employees have got ADHD. I mean, what a racket. Again, it's a phrase we're going to be using all the time, isn't it? What a racket.
Yeah, but since the Labour love nothing more than trashing their Tory predecessors, it's a perfect chance for them to say, look, we inherited this access to work outrage. We, the brilliant Labour government, will save money by axing it. It's ridiculous. £320 million to buy expensive stuff for people with jobs. What do you think of that, folks? Let me know. 03, while you're filling out your form, I'll join you, 20 minutes. Let me know what you think about that. 03444991000. Let's go to break, Isabel. When we come back, we'll talk about the BBC. They've been in Parliament today, yet again, squirming, yet again, explaining just how they came to tell that egregious lie about Donald Trump. That next, stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, the BBC's on the rack again, yet again being called to appear before Parliament, the Culture Committee. So today, before the Culture Committee sat, first of all, the chairman, Samir Shah, who's under intense pressure now. He may well be the next to lose his job. He seems to think he's all right. I may have bad news for him. Also, the former editorial advisor, Michael Prescott, former BBC journalist, he was before the committee as well. He had some pretty excoriating things to say. For example, the now former Director General, Tim Davie, had a blind spot about editorial failings. I think we can all agree with that. We learned that Samir Shah, the chairman, begged Tim Davie not to resign. Come on, this is the whole point about the problem with the state broadcaster is it doesn't understand the concept of accountability. Also today before the committee was Robbie Gigg, one of the more board members, who's been catching a lot of sort of flack because he has the temerity to be slightly right of centre when it comes to politics. So he was there as well. Now, the upshot of all of this was that Samir Shah said, "Oh, what a shame that Tim Davie's gone." No, mate, he had to go. Couldn't preside over any more scandals or disgraces. Still sticking to this ludicrous line, oh, well, we're trying to get to what went wrong with Panorama, but, you know, we've said sorry to the president. What more does he want? You said he was an insurrectionist who called for violent revolution. That, Mr. Shah, you may well realise, is a serious defamation, a very egregious libel. And the BBC, why should the BBC get away with just saying sorry? No other media outlet will get away with merely an apology. So we've got that. So all in all, but the backdrop to that is we learn also that departing Director General Tim Davie and Deborah Turness, the head of news, who also had to quit, this pair of clowns were forced to quit because they are the architects of the BBC downfall. You know, Davie just staggering from one crisis to a scandal to another crisis, never dealing with them very well. He had to go. This was one crisis too many. Deborah Turness presided over the BBC newsroom, descending into a pit of, some might say, anti-Semitic bias against Israel in its reporting of Gaza. Tim Davie earned £547,000 a year. Deborah Turness earned £431,000 a year. We now hear that between them, they'll be walking away with more than £500,000 worth of payoff. Now, they've resigned. They've been forced to quit. Why are they getting a payoff? If a company, or even the BBC, says, look, you got to go because we've got to make savings, you've got to go, we're making you redundant, then they owe you compensation. But if you resign, you're not owed compensation. Why are they getting £500,000, do you think, Isabel?
I've absolutely no idea. Genuinely, I've no idea. I'm with you on this one. I think the BBC hopes that after a few weeks of fuss, they can just snap back to normal, that this will all be just kind of forgotten about and they can go back to their easy complacency, the kind of complacency about their approach to news coverage, which led them to this dreadful place that they're in right now. You know, the kind of complacency that allows bias to continue, and they barely even notice it. Well, I don't think that's going to be possible. I think this is an absolute watershed moment for the BBC. We've got this Trump lawsuit, which is not just going to go away. You know, he's making a point. It's not like he needs the money. He's making a massive political point here in true showy Trump style. And the BBC is going to have to cough up a lot of money, initially on lawyers and in due course on some kind of settlement. And that is going to really hurt and things are going to have to change. And unless they continue with a very indulgent Labour government, then I think they're really headed towards a very, very different type of corporation in years to come.
Exactly right. And I mean, Samir Shah is now under intense pressure because another member of the board resigned on Friday, saying that he hadn't been kept up to speed with what was going on Panorama. So Samir Shah stands accused of presiding over a murky failure to share information with people who should have it. And that, I mean, I don't know what the truth of that is, but it's classic BBC. You know, try to do things secretly, let as few people as possible know, keep it all under wraps, and then hope that it'll all go away in the end, or it'll all go away sooner rather than later. This one is flaring up in their face, and when I hear Samir Shah is standing there saying, "Oh, such a shame, I tried to persuade Tim Davie not to leave," it's like, don't you guys learn anything? Don't you get it? Don't you get it? We can't have this guy presiding over scandal after scandal after scandal. You know, Hugh Edwards, the Gaza documentary, the Bob Villan at Glastonbury, and so on and so forth. It was nothing but a procession line of disasters presided over by this guy, Davey, who Michael Prescott, the former editorial advisor, said had a complete blind spot to editorial failings because he's not editorial, doesn't understand editorial. And so he had to go. And what we had today was Samir Shah banging the old drum again. Oh, the state broadcaster, we're marvellous. No, no, no. Let us carry on as we have been, because nothing is wrong here. Oh, you know, never mind those right-wingers trying to destroy us. No, no, no. The BBC is sick at heart and everybody knows it. It's got to be cured somehow. So you've got him still banging that drum, leave us alone, everything is fine. Robbie Gibb, the board member with the temerity to be right-wing, he was saying, look, I do think we need to look at editorial bias. And then, more to the point, Michael Prescott, the former editorial advisor, who's the whistleblower on the Panorama scandal, he's just saying he's very troubled by problems at the BBC. He says that the alleged bias in the Gaza war coverage is a clear and present problem that needs to be sorted with. And if they don't get... So you've got this guy saying, no, 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 there are massive problems here at the state broadcaster, but you still have apologists, protectors like Samir Shah going, no, 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 everything's fine. What a shame the brilliant Tim Davie had to go. Brilliant. He was a Keystone Cop. He was a comedy director general. Absolute joke. So the BBC, I'm sorry, it needs to get rid of people like Samir Shah.
Yeah, and probably others besides. And, you know, perhaps what will emerge from this ultimately is a slimmed down BBC, a bit like King Charles's slimmed down monarchy, in which there aren't the kind of equivalent of the Andrew figures. That's what one would hope anyway. But I'm sure of one thing, and that is that medium to long term, it cannot just be business as usual.
Yeah, the BBC's got to take this opportunity to sort itself out. Even you mentioned about the soft Labour government. Labour governments, of course, love the BBC. So does Ed Davey, all that lot. Public service broadcasting, except it's not public service broadcasting, is it? It's just a
self-service broadcasting.
Self-service broadcasting and a load of programmes that nobody wants to watch. So, you know, there are problems there. But you know, the BBC. Root and branch, it needs to be sorted out. What it needs is a new Director General, as we discussed last week, who knows nothing about the BBC. They keep saying, we need someone who knows about the BBC. No, no, no.
No, the opposite.
We keep getting Director Generals who know about the BBC, and look where that leads us. We need an outsider who's going to come in and say, what is this shambles? I'm going to sort it out. If we don't get that, then it's going to get worse and worse. But you mentioned about the soft Labour government. Even the Culture Secretary, Lisa Nandy, she who should have been fired years ago but is still there for some reason, even she is saying that the way things are going, she will block the BBC's proposed TV licence raise. They want to hike it to over £180 a year. And Lisa Nandy said, no, things are so bad there, I don't think I'll allow that. So even Labour is beginning to say, we've got problems here. Going forward, let's see what we can do. But there is a mountain to climb at the state broadcaster. Let's hope they try to do so. Isabel, let's go to break now. When we come back, we'll talk about puberty blockers. We're going to start prescribing them to 220 kids. 220 of them. Poor things. Pharmaceutical mutilation that will affect the rest of their lives. What are we doing? Stop doing this. Leave children alone. Unbelievable. That next, stay tuned.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is talk.
Welcome back. Puberty blockers. Last December, so almost a year ago, the Health Secretary, West Street, and quite rightly in my view, announced that they would no longer be prescribed to kids under the age of 18 who think they're born in the wrong body, who believe they suffer from gender dysphoria. So if you want to go for it after you're 18 when you're an adult, go right ahead, but not children. So good for West. Now we learn there's going to be an experiment. 220 kids around the country are going to be given puberty blocking drugs to find out what kind of physical and mental problems or effects they might have. I thought we got past all this. I think this is pharmaceutical mutilation. What on earth is going on? Let's talk again to Talk's international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Isabel, you're a parent. I mean, this is unbelievable. As I say, the West Streeting finally brought the NHS to its senses last December by saying no more puberty blockers to kids who think they're in the wrong body, gender dysphoric kids, alleged gender, because they're only kids. And they don't quite know, they're confused often. And if you give them these puberty blocker drugs to stop puberty coming on, which will of course confirm the body they were born into that they don't like, then you will affect them physically for the rest of their lives. So now, no more of that. Quite right. The Tavistock Clinic, Frankenstein's Castle over in near Hampstead, near Swiss Cottage, where they used to tell kids as young as 4 years old, yeah, you're in the wrong body, ludicrous nonsense that they've now stopped funding that anymore. But all of a sudden we find out that 220 kids around the country are going to be given puberty blockers to sort of as a kind of experimental trial to find out what sort of physical and emotional effects they really do have. Well, my first thought about is that I don't really think we should have that trial. But what about those poor 220 kids? Are we now sanctioning, experimenting, chemical experiments on children? What on earth is happening here?
I think it's completely grotesque and the most warped kind of medicine, really, that I can imagine. I'm very old-fashioned about this. I don't think any child is born in the, quote, wrong body. I think there are all sorts of other mental health and body dysmorphia or dysphoria issues going on when children are somehow led to believe that they're in the wrong body. And I don't use that phrase led to believe lightly because it's a cultural thing. I mean, I think occasionally there are probably rare cases where there have been nature gets a bit muddled in the nicest possible way. But those are very rare cases. I would be astonished if there are, lots of children in hard-pressed, civil war-torn Sudan who are trying to find a doctor and saying they've been born in the wrong body. I mean, this is an absolute, kind of overindulgent Western, fall of a civilization malady that has been invented in most cases, in my personal view. Now, other people have strong views to the contrary, and I would respectfully listen to those views, and I would still totally disagree with them. I don't think we should be messing around with the natural way of things of, young girls becoming young women or boys becoming young men by trying to alter the course of their adolescence. I think it's absolutely crazy. And having spoken to a number of young people who have been through gender reassignment and ended up, after the puberty blockers, going down the surgical route, there is no going back from this. Once you chop bits off you, it's not that easy to put them back on again. And there are people living with very, very heavy regrets about having done this when they were little, or when they were, let's say, non-adult.
Yeah.
And what to do now. It's completely messed them up for the rest of the...
Kira Bell, who has taken legal action against the Tavistock Gender Clinic, which gave her puberty blockers. She said about this new trial that she'll launch another legal challenge unless this trial is immediately halted on the basis that it is illegal. So I'll repeat, what we're about to do is to subject 226 children to a chemical experiment to see what effect that these drugs, these puberty blocker drugs, have on them physically and mentally. And we know that physically they will never be the same again. These are life-changing drugs. 226 children are about to be sacrificed on the altar of all of this. I find it breathtaking. Absolutely. West Streeting, what on earth do you think you're doing? He did say, when he said, I'm banning the prescription of puberty blocker drugs to kids under the age of 18, he did put in the caveat, unless it's a clinical trial. Well, this is a clinical trial. But 226 kids, what about them? This is unbelievable. You don't use kids as guinea pigs to find out what effects chemicals might have on them. What is this? This is unbelievable.
What about their parents? I mean, sorry, but what about the parents here? I very, very much hope that all the parents concerned have had a full say and a power of veto over this, horrible, twisted trial. But, one of the things we've learned about this ongoing scandal is that parents are sometimes cut out of the equation. You've got schools being encouraged to allow children called Samantha to change their name in class to, Samuel, and mum and dad don't get told about this. So I just hope that parents are fully informed and have agreed to this. But if they have agreed to this, I also have to ask what kind of parent they are. Now, I'm sure that they are trying to do the very best for their troubled children, but I think this is the wrong solution.
I totally agree. Stop this madness, folks. Let me know what you think about this. A chemical experiment on 226 British kids by the government. 03444991000. Big thanks to Isabel Oakeshott, Talk's international editor, for another fantastic hour. When we come back, we'll be discussing whether or not we should ban the burqa, and indeed Australia should. That next.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, an Australian politician called Pauline Hanson is in a world of trouble because she's campaigning to ban the burqa down in Australia. And in order to sort of illustrate her campaign, her protest, if you like, she came into the Australian Senate dressed in a very strict, all-over, kind of can't-see-a-thing burqa. She did it twice, and she's now been banned or suspended from the chamber. Obviously been accused of racism and disrespecting Muslims, disrespecting Islam. Well, you knew that. But isn't she just trying to make a point? There's a lot of countries that have banned the burqa. A lot of people think Britain should join that list. Well, there's lots to discuss here. Let's bring in journalist Khadija Khan. Welcome, Khadija.
Thank you so much, Kevin, for having me.
Always a pleasure. Now, let's have a look at Pauline Hanson. She went on to Sky News down in Australia, responding to questions about her, if you like, theatrical performance in the Australian Senate. She's trying to make a point. Look at me, you can't see my face. I am shut off from the world. Do we really want the women of Australia to have to wear these? That's her point. For that, she's accused of racism. I don't quite get that. But anyway, here she is responding to questioning from Andrew Bolt on Sky News Australia.
Then you ask yourself the question, why have so many countries banned the burqa? Why have Islamic countries banned it as well? So you've got to ask yourself that question. Do we want to see this country go the way of France, Denmark, or even Great Britain, the way it is now? And I don't want to see it go that way. Why shouldn't we have open facades so people can see who you are? Why shouldn't these people assimilate? And that's another thing, Andrew. How do we know that these people are not going to end up on our welfare system? You know, are they employable?
And here is Senator Fatima Payman, obviously on the other side of the argument. Here she is with her reaction to Pauline Hanson's burqa stunt.
The burqa didn't raise your rent. Pauline knows that the burqa didn't cause the housing crisis. Working people of every background are being squeezed from all sides, and Pauline Hanson wants you to blame brown people for it.
Well, Khadija, I'm not sure that that is what Pauline Hanson is trying to say. I mean, I think, you know, I'm not so much interested in whether or not Muslim immigrants cause problems for the Australian social welfare system, whether or not they can get jobs. My interest in this, and I'm sure it's yours as well, is should a country like Australia ban the burqa, as France has Denmark has Australia has have Muslim, not Austria, not Australia, of course. Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, Tunisia. These are all Muslim countries. They've banned the burqa. So this isn't about non-Islamic countries, you know, kind of protesting about a Muslim feature of life. Lots of countries don't like the idea of the burqa. Here's Pauline once again making her point. I agree with her. Do you think we should ban the burqa as a Muslim journalist?
Kevin, we have to be clear about one thing, that burqa is not a benign piece of clothing. It serves as a tool of oppression that entrenches a patriarchal doctrine undermining women's rights. This attire objectifies women and sexualizes children. Wearing it suggests piety, while refusing it implies she's asking for it. This belies the notion that this attire is a matter of choice for women. What should worry us all is the way they have elevated a piece of clothing already known as a tool of women's oppression to the status of a sacred symbol of religious modesty. It is absurd and pernicious. People are free to disagree the way Pauline Hanson has raised this point. However, her point has a merit. And this is neither racism nor Islamophobia to criticize a piece of clothing. It's not about Muslims as people. It is about an ideology that comes with this attire. And that ideology is deeply misogynistic and inherently discriminatory towards women, against women and young girls. So I think we need to understand that she was wearing a burqa in the Senate is not a problem. The problem is that she was not allowed to present a bill to ban the burqa in the Senate. As far as I know, Australia is a democratic country, and Pauline Hanson is an elected senator. She has a right to present any bill she may choose, and represent the interest of her constituents. It is anti-democratic to ban a senator or to prevent a senator from introducing a bill that is related to the matter of assimilation, integration, and of course with women's oppression. And then there is a security concern attached to it. And as you said, that this has been banned in different European countries and in Muslim majority countries. If this attire were Islamophobic or racist, I mean, banning this attire is Islamophobic or racist, it would have not been banned in Muslim majority countries. It's banned in Muslim majority countries over the concerns of security and to preserve the local culture and to counter radical Islam. So how can we be Islamophobic to call for a ban on burqa in the West, in the Western democracy, where we have a right to voice our concerns, especially when it is related with women's rights, with human rights, and with the security concern for ordinary people?
Yeah. See, I find this debate difficult. Because I don't like first of all, I'm not a banner. I don't like banning things, generally speaking. But also, I don't like the idea of telling women what they can and cannot wear. That said, I think we have to take a stand. You have to decide what it is that you want out of the burqa debate. What does the burqa stand for? And in the end, you do have to, step one side of the fence or the other. So my view is, I think the burqa is a symbol of women being second-class citizens, the subjugation of them. I think it is not consistent with a Western democracy that we should have women who are not allowed to show their faces for whatever reason. So I step on that side of the fence. I'm afraid I see the burqa as misogynistic, degrading to women, and as such, I'm in favour of banning it. I think it's better that we don't have it in the same way that many Muslim countries think the same. But what do you say to Muslim women who often I've debated with Muslim women who like the idea of wearing the burqa. What do you say to them when they say it's up to us what we wear? Who are you to tell us what to wear? Let me just preempt what you might say, because I'm always slightly suspicious of that argument, because I think, well, why are you saying this? Why are you really saying this for you, or are you saying this for a religion that has taught you that you should be second-class citizens? Do you see what I'm saying? So where do you stand on that argument that women should have the right to make their own decisions about what they wear?
Kevin, I have refused to sit on the fence on this issue because I have been involved in discussions on this issue for a long, long time. I was born and raised in a Muslim majority country, which is very religiously conservative country. And I know the ideology.
Is that Pakistan?
Yes, yeah. I was born and raised in Pakistan. So I know the ideology. I know how it is imposed on women, how women are brainwashed into wearing it, how it is imposed on children. So when I am talking about it, I'm saying I am very much clear about my point of view. And my point of view is this, that we all have freedom to practice whatever beliefs we may choose. However, the freedom to manifest those beliefs is limited and restricted. This is even mentioned in European Convention on Human Rights, that we cannot be absolute in manifesting our religious belief. Now, people like me who have denounced Islam publicly, they should be punished by death. There are majority of Muslims who believe that. So can we allow them to manifest their, freedom of belief in this situation? Of course not. So how can we just be quiet on this issue when they tell us that this is their, their religion and their belief and they want to practice it, especially when we know that there are some women, there might be, I would say, some women who may choose to wear this attire, but there are many, in fact, there are in millions who are forced to wear this attire. So this is not a matter of choice for women, which is very much clear and obvious. People, they are free to just overlook this reality and turn a blind eye. But I think this is our right in Western democracy, that we have a debate on this issue without any fear of being accused of Islamophobia and racism. And what happened in Australian Senate, I think we have to be worried about it, because it is an anti-democratic attitude that is taking its roots not only in Australia, but also in the UK. I can tell you that I've been told many times that this is un-British to even say it, that we should ban the burqa and niqab, even if it is about security concerns, even it is about countering a radical interpretation of Islam. So I think I believe that there is a huge appetite among British people to have an open and frank discussion on this issue. Right. However, the people who are sitting in position of power, they are very much reluctant to have an open debate on this issue. And this is anti-democratic, in my opinion. And this attitude should not be normalized in our society. We have to push back. We have to have a discussion on this issue. It is about human rights. It is about women's rights. Here, can we forget that a 10-year-old girl, Sarah Sharif, was made to wear hijab to hide her injuries?
Yeah.
She is not with us. She has gone. But can we forget that?
Yeah, no, 10-year-old.
Nobody dared to question that why she's wearing hijab, because people, they cannot, it's an open secret.
Well, what it is, Khadija, it is what you're implying, and I agree with you. Whenever there is this kind of debate, the opponents of what we're saying will tell us, you better be quiet because you're being racist, you're being Islamophobic. Racism and Islamophobia are the tools they use to crush sensible, intelligent debate. And you're right, I couldn't agree with you more. At the very least, we need a sensible, intelligent debate about this. I think we need a new way forward in terms of our attitudes to the burqa, because we
I would say that there is sometimes there is a situation when visionaries of the society, they are required to intervene in order to rescue the persecuted or marginalized section of the society, and that cannot be done without offending the oppressors of these people.
Yeah.
Women who dare to talk about it, they are vilified and they are treated like pariahs, like myself. And their views are disregarded, and their voices are muffled under screams of Islamophobia and racism. And if they cannot call people like me a racist or Islamophobic, you cannot imagine the condescending behavior that I have to put up with. They
I can
don't
imagine.
even allow me to express my opinion freely.
Well, you can express your opinion freely on this channel all you like, Khadija.
And I really appreciate it.
Anytime. Let's have a quick look at how the Australian Senate reacted to Pauline Hanson's theatrical protest.
This is a racist senator displaying blatant racism and Islamophobia, President.
If this is about the dress code, she is disrespecting a faith. She is disrespecting the Muslims out there, Muslim Australians. It's absolutely unconstitutional. This needs to be dealt with immediately before we proceed.
Clearly, what has happened today is not a genuine demonstration of faith. In fact, it is the middle finger to people of faith. It is extremely racist and unsafe.
Senator Hanson, all of us in this place have a great privilege in coming into this chamber, a great privilege. And we represent, in our states, people of every faith,
Well, that was a festival of virtue signalling, wasn't it, Khadija? Is it against the law in Australia, then, to disrespect of faith? Why does that lady think that that is the ultimate crime? That's the whole point. You know, here in Britain, and it should be the case in Australia, we should be allowed to disrespect faiths if we feel like it. It's an issue of freedom of speech, and I wouldn't frame it in terms of disrespecting Islam when we say we think you should ban the burqa, but certainly we should be allowed to say that without being accused of the kind of claptrap they were coming out with in the Australian Senate there. Racism, Islamophobia, how dare you insult a faith. It's just nonsense. It crushes sensible debate, as I said earlier.
Again, this is like oppression of fragile sensibilities. This is how they are trying to, take over the whole narrative. They are making it all about offending religious sensibilities. It is not about people, and there are no blasphemy laws in Australia, as far as I know, and neither do we have here in the UK. However, we have to respect people's fragile religious sensibility. We don't want to offend the unpleasant people within certain section of Muslim communities, because we fear a backlash. This is plain cowardice, in my opinion, that people don't want to talk about it. Now, was it a stunt or an antic, what Pauline Hanson did? Probably, but this is not the first time senators in that place have done such stunts before to make a political point in Australian Senate. Green Sarah Hanson young waves a dead fish in Senate to make a point about the protection of salmon farming, but she was asked to remove the dead fish from the Senate. However, she was not accused of anything at all at that time, and people took her point seriously. Now, we have a right to agree or disagree with Senator Hanson's point here. Senator Hanson's attitude and the way she raised this issue. However, her point is valid, and it should be given a serious consideration in the Senate, in my opinion. Absolutely right. Couldn't agree with you more, Khadija. It's always good to have you on the show. Thanks for coming on. That's Khadija Khan, a journalist, brought up very serious, strict Muslim lady who now rails against many of the tenets of her faith, the Islamic faith, and one of them is the subjugation of women, the reduction of women to second-class citizens. Why is it women have to wear those burqas? Why don't guys have to wear them? Why women? It's not on. It's not on. And there are security concerns as well, but I don't think that primarily for me is why burqas should be banned. It's because I don't like women not being treated as equal citizens, because they are. They're equal human beings, so don't make them wear these things. They shouldn't have to. So this country, in my view, and Australia, they should stand up. We should stand up for our values and say women don't have to cover their faces in this country. Let me know what you think. 03444 991 1000. When we come back, we're going to talk about the extraordinary situation
concerning solitary confinement in prison. Some prisoners who were sentenced to or were punished by solitary confinement have taken their case to court, and the judge has backed them, saying it was terrible because when they were in solitary confinement, it made them depressed and anxious and traumatised. It's supposed to, isn't it? I mean, so we won't have solitary confinement anymore as a punishment because it's not very nice. It's not supposed to be very nice. This is insane, this stuff. Virtue signalling nonsense. Let's talk about that after the break. Stay where you are.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This one beggars belief. 3 Islamist extremists have successfully argued that being held in solitary confinement in prison is unlawful because it makes them depressed, anxious and traumatised. There's a gangland murderer and extremist enforcer called Denny de Silva. He converted to Islam after he was jailed in 2016, but was put in a separation unit after sharing Islamic State material with other convicts. Another, a guy called Fuad Awali, 37, shot 2 men in the head in a planned execution. He was isolated after taking a prison officer hostage and requesting to associate with one of the killers of Fusilier Lee Rigby behind bars. And aspiring rapper, someone called Sahayab Abu, also goes through by the name of the Masked Menace, was sent to solitary confinement after guards feared he was attempting to radicalise other inmates. They've gone to the High Court to say that being held in solitary confinement, being kept away from the other prisoners, traumatised them. It made them depressed, anxious and traumatised. The judge said, you're quite right, it must never happen again. Solitary confinement, terrible, terrible. I mean, it's supposed to make them depressed, anxious and traumatised, isn't it? It's a punishment. I mean, what is going on? Let's talk to Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum, Philip Kisley. There you go, Philip. Solitary confinement, a punishment for terrible prisoners, extremists, Islamists, murderers, radicals, people trying to radicalise other prisoners. They're put into solitary confinement. They go to the High Court and the judge agrees with them. This is wrong because it's leaving you depressed and anxious and traumatised. Isn't that what it's supposed to do?
I think it is. It is supposed to be a punishment, and this is our old friend, the European Convention of Human Rights again, isn't it? Wreaking havoc and just making a mockery of all our homegrown rules and regulations. So these people are homicidal maniacs, the real scum of the earth. You know, they want to nail bomb and kill people, and they feel depressed and anxious. You know, oh dear, what a shame. Never mind. You know, who cares? I mean, I don't care. I couldn't give a monkey's toss about their human rights. I don't even want them in British prisons. I think they should be deported. They're Islamists. And don't ask me where, because I don't care. I believe Gaza's pretty nice this time of year, you know. So I think that we're in this situation once again, and we always are on so many of these things, where it's always the perpetrators that get the sympathy. It's never the victims. Is anybody thinking about, you know, Lee Rigby's family here, for example, because his name has come up. And it's just one of those things, like I say, that is just so appalling and really sums up our joke of a country and our joke of an establishment and our joke of a government.
They're citing Article 8 of the ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights, which is the right to a family life.
Yeah.
I mean, presumably they're expanding that to a right to some kind of social life, because they don't have much of a family life behind bars, do they? But this is what happens in this country. As soon as, you know, kind of low-lifes go to the court, to our High Court and say the magic initials, ECHR, our judges always buckle, don't they? And this is a ruling against the right of prison governors, if you like, to put prisoners into solitary confinement, that age-old punishment for prisoners who refuse to toe the line. This is about discipline behind bars. If prison governors can't have recourse to solitary confinement, it's going to make prisons even more unruly than they already are. This is madness.
Well, one of them, the reason he's not in solitary confinement now is because he punched a prison officer in the face. Okay, and that was seen as evidence of his depression and anxiety. So he's been rewarded for that, but it's not the only thing. This is costing the taxpayer over £500,000, and actually it's going to come in much more than that. We are paying for this nonsense, this back and forth about, you know, you're in prison, you're a terrorist, you're an Islamist terrorist. One of these lunatics had been walking around with an 18-inch sword and dressed in armour before he was put away. You know, these are the craziest people in society, and I think, you know, what they've done, the awful crimes they've committed, we should not be interested in their human rights beyond, they're in prison, we feed them, we give them an element of what prisoners would expect, and that's it, nothing more. There is, there are no kind of frills here. This is just ridiculous. But the point is, I come back to this key point, it's costing us a fortune. It costs us a fortune to keep them anyway, and they are Islamists, remember, and we shouldn't be spending that money on them. It's almost like our establishment is, I keep thinking about, when rats get this crazy disease, toxoplasmosis, where they're attracted to rats, they're attracted to cats, they're attracted to the smell of feline urine, and it's a mind virus they have. This is what we have as a society. We have a mind virus where we're attracted to the most toxic, dangerous people who want to kill us, and we want to protect them, and we want to love them. We've got to stop it. If we're going to get beyond Islamism, if we're going to sort out all of these big issues that we have as a society, then we need to change our mindset and actually think about punishment and justice, because there is no justice for the people who've been harmed, killed, mutilated and murdered when they see this nonsense happening and being played out across the media.
As you say, this trio who used the ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights, to argue their case, they cost us, the British taxpayer, because of their legal bid, their successful legal action, they cost us £500,000, £500,000, in order to not have to go into solitary confinement. And in essence, this judge essentially said that his name was Mr. Justice Ellenbogen. Mrs. Justice Ellenbogen essentially said, "Oh my God, you punched a prison officer in the face. You poor thing. I didn't realise the extent of your anxiety and your depression and your traumatisation was as extensive as that. I just didn't if you punched a prison officer, you poor thing. So in that case, no more solitary confinement to you." What is happening in our judiciary? These people are crazy. This is an embarrassment. This is an embarrassment to British justice, isn't it?
Yeah, I think that's the key. This is, I mean, it's embarrassing talking about it and reading it. You just can't, you couldn't make it up. But it's just symptomatic. I mean, we've had Jeremy Corbyn writing this week, haven't we? Worried about the Palestine Action people who are behind bars at the moment, who are on hunger strike. And if they want to go on hunger strike, let them. They're terrorists. Who cares? I keep coming back to that central point. We've got to care about the victims, and we've got to punish the perpetrators. We've got it upside down in this country. We've had it upside down for such a long time, and it's doing us so much harm. And where does the money come from? I mean, already we're spending an extra, 15 billion on benefits. Where's it coming from? Where are we paying for all of this stuff? And how are we paying for so many people behind? But it's just beggars belief, and is, as you say, Kev, it's the stupidity of the whole thing that is really worrying, because it's demented as much as anything.
And it's this will be a test case now. Any prisoner put into solitary confinement or put in one of these isolation units, if they feel like it, they're going to go to the court, go to the authorities, they're going to cite this precedent, and solitary confinement will be taken out of their range of punishments. They won't be able to be put into solitary confinement or indeed any kind of isolation. As I say, what on earth is going on in this country? This is deranged nonsense, isn't it?
Well, I mean, the problem is they're laughing at us. Okay, if you're a potential Islamist nutcase and you're seeing that you're going to get, the red carpet treatment when you go to prison, and the more you act up, the more you misbehave, the better treatment you get, then First of all, it's not going to act as a deterrent, okay? That's the worst thing. It's actually putting people in danger, isn't it? Because there is no deterrent. All right, you're going to be locked up, but you're going to have a jolly time. You're going to have a hell of a time, you know. There is no deterrent, and they are laughing at us. They're laughing at the victims. They're laughing at the taxpayer. They're laughing at the country. All of it. It is so depressing, and we just need the whole system ripping up, starting again. And the one thing we really do need, and I'm sure viewers would agree with this, we need to get out of the ECHR straight, you know, as soon as possible.
Yeah, this is more evidence. We've got to get out of that sclerotic, useless club. We get nothing out of membership of the ECHR except special treatment for Islamist extremists behind bars. Great, well worth joining anything that's going to provide those people with special circumstances. Unbelievable. Philip, really good to talk to you. We'll talk on Thursday. That's Philip Kisley, Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum. What do you think about that? Solitary confinement is against the human rights of prisoners. The I give you the ECHR 03444991000. Talking about laughable madness, we're going to talk about the COP30 Brazilian con after the break. All of those 56,000 delegates who flew in from all over the world on planet-destroying jets, who drove there along the freeway that they sawed down thousands of acres of rainforest to build. All of those people at the end of, 2 weeks of virtue signalling and halo polishing, what have they decided about the climate change? Oh, I know, nothing. They made no resolutions about the reduction of fossil fuel use at all, because Saudi Arabia objected. Now, that's fine by me, but what is the point of 56,000 people flying to Brazil to decide nothing about the climate? I mean, unbelievable. 03444991000. We'll discuss that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about COP30, if we must. I believe it's grinding to a halt. God knows what it's all been about. 56,000 delegates flew in from all over the world into the Brazilian jungle, the rainforest, where they had sliced down, felled down, cut down thousands of acres of forest, a rainforest, in order to build a 4-lane highway from nearby Belém all the way to the delegates' conference hall, which caught fire towards the end of the week last week. That notwithstanding, 56,000. What kind of conclusion did all these people reach? By the way, Britain sent 450 delegates. It's grotesque, isn't it? Cost us about 5 million quid. They spewed untold carbon emissions into the air, flying in by planet-destroying jets, including our delegation, of course, included crazy Ed Miliband, the Nut Zero secretary, and, of course, never here Keir Starmer, who never misses the chance to climb on a plane. Ed Miliband went there twice. Never mind the planet. You know, I've got a conference to attend. Look, then they came to the end and they made no resolution about the use of fossil fuels. I mean, that's fine by me. Good. But surely after this huge juggernaut of an event, they ought to have come to some kind of conclusion. They didn't. They came to no real conclusion at all. What was it all about? Let's talk to social and political commentator and expert on matters of the environment, James Melville. Hi, James.
Good evening, Kevin. You well?
I'm okay, mate. The EU delegation warned the president of Brazil that they would not accept any deal that in any way refused to call for a roadmap to phase out fossil fuels. No way. They just, no, we were not signing any deal like that unless you have a roadmap to phase out fossil fuels. We from Europe, Britain, the lads, we just will not sign anything. Then they did sign it. The big watered down pledge to do nothing much at all. No. I mean, as I say, it's fine by me they don't want to reduce fossil fuels, but I thought that was the point. 56,000 people there, 450 Brits. What was it all for?
It's just a great big jamboree of virtue hypocrisy. You know, it has been for years. You know, it's an opportunity for, you know, certain individuals to go across there, private jets, 5-star hotels, and tell the world about how virtuous they are. Meanwhile, us plebs have to pay extra tax on net zero lunacy, which is actually helping to bankrupt the country. But many countries are actually walking away from this, but Britain, of course, are doing the complete opposite because of net Miliband. And so you end up in a situation whereby nothing is achieved at great cost, and also dollop upon dollop of hypocrisy. I mean, over 100,000 trees were felled for this VIP lane,
which hilarious.
Which isn't going to be to the benefit of indigenous communities in the Amazon. A lot of farmers, I've seen their landscapes hollowed out, and that VIP 4-lane highway isn't even going to be used afterwards. But that's fine, because the great and good could get a quick access in a VIP lane to COP. Now, COP's got history with this as well. I remember a few years ago, one of the sponsors was Coca-Cola. The world's biggest polluter of plastic bottles, Coca-Cola. How virtuous. And you have your motorcades as well, and the great gargantuan cost. And we have, again, the likes of Ed Miliband and Keir Starmer, who are quite partial to getting on a private jet and staying in a nice hotel and telling the world about just how virtuous they are and how Britain's leading the way. Well, maybe they should look closer to home. This country is rotting on many different levels, normally wrapped around the cost of living crisis, and of which net zero is a significant part of that. I remember when Starmer and Miliband said that we're going to have £300 off our energy bills. It isn't quite working out like that.
Going in the opposite direction, isn't it? It's going in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Just to go back to exactly what happened there, as I say, the EU, including Britain, were pushing for a deal that would call for a roadmap to phase out fossil fuels. I mean, not exactly hard and fast stuff in the first place, but in the end, no words appeared to that effect, and all the resolution at the end of this nonsense called for was for countries to, and I quote, voluntarily accelerate their climate action, and it recalls the consensus reached at the COP28 conference in Dubai. Great. So in 2 years they've achieved nothing. EU Climate Commissioner Wopke Hoekstra said, we're not going to hide the fact that we would have preferred to have more ambition on everything. We should support it, though, because at least it's going in the right direction. I mean, God, what a load of money, a load of damage to the environment, as you say. All these 56,000 people flying into Brazil, killing the planet with all the jets they came in on, many of them private, many of them going first class. Ed Miliband flew in, flew out and flew back. He went there twice. Unbelievable. I mean, we've got what can we not somehow, James, just prevail upon all the people who organise these farces to stop doing it, stop insulting our intelligence. It's a disgrace. It's a scandal.
Yeah, I think the narrative's changed. The Overton window has changed in a number of things over the last few months, largely because the Labour government and their direction of travel are pushing people in the exact opposite. And I think net zero is one of these things, especially at a time where there's a cost of living crisis that's going on, and some of it has been heightened by the Labour government, and obviously the budget is going to be more to that as well. So you've got a cost of living crisis on the price of things, the essentials like food and energy, and at the same time you've got a record tax burden. So the public are dealing with this on a day-to-day basis, and meanwhile they see their leaders grandstanding around the world at these jamboree virtue signalling summits at great cost and staying in lavish hotels and fine dining and private jets. Nothing's achieved, and all it does is actually destroy some of the Amazon, and people are just going, this sums up the Labour government and a lot of our politicians around the world at this moment. They're telling us plebs to know our place regarding climate. And actually, we're at a stage now where if anyone thinks that we should have extra carbon taxes and whether that is somehow going to change the planet and change the climate, well, they should have a word with themselves. But we've unfortunately got Ed Miliband, who's so lost down the rabbit hole of his own virtue in this. He's burrowed so deep on this one, but part of that is that he's stubborn, like Starmer. So he's gone down this route and he wants to justify an ends to means. But unfortunately, all we've got is a government who are pointing completely in the wrong direction on things that the public don't want at enormous cost. Net zero, roughly, is costing about £30 billion a year, and there's carbon capture machines and so on. I would suggest the money is spent on the things that we need the most, fixing our infrastructures, proper infrastructures in this country, and doing what they said they should do, fix the foundations. Remember that?
Yeah, fixing the foundations, yeah. Starmer's favourite phrase. Now, just to sum up, James, going to have to go now. Good to have you on board as always. This COP30 conference achieved the square root of sod all, didn't it? Nothing.
Well, absolutely. I mean, but the same with every COP. They promised to change the world. It's just ludicrous. I mean, there's so many different debates on this, and I've touched on a number of them. I think even some of the climate debates in terms of what's causing it are up for grabs in terms of the disingenuous measure. Like, for instance, the methane myth argument. I could wang on about that for hours, but I won't. So there's a debate to be had about that, and there's also a debate to be had about the so-called solutions. It reminds me a lot of the COVID era as well, whereby governments were seen to do the right thing, but actually they did the wrong thing and made the situation even worse. And we're at this point with net zero, and I've said this before. I don't think the public buy it. I think we're fed up with it, especially at a critical time in terms of the economy. There should be a referendum on net zero.
I agree with you, and I think a referendum on net zero, and I think we should end the international annual farce of the cops, the not much cops. It's just ridiculous. As I say, it insults our intelligence. Folks, let me know what you think, but after, what was it, 3 weeks, these people in the jungle achieved nothing. How bad is that? 0344 499 1000. Big thanks to James Melville, social and political commentator there. Let's go to break. When we come back, your calls. Let's get a couple of calls in, and then after the 9 o'clock news, we're going to talk about whether or not we should be revealing whether suspects in serious crimes are asylum seekers, are migrants. Some people say we've got to stop this process. Others say, thank God we continue. Thank God they've started doing this. Where do you stand on that? Should we know whether or not the alleged perpetrators of serious crimes are migrants or asylum seekers? Let me know. 0344 499 1000. Your calls when we come back. Stay tuned.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK on DAB+. On YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We've just got time to maybe squeeze in a couple of calls. Let's go. This is Carol in Manchester. Wants to talk about the burqa. What do you feel on the burqa, Carol?
Hi, Kevin. If you can just give me 1 minute and I'll literally list it off very, very quick in 60 seconds, right?
Okay.
So the
I'm
burqa,
counting.
Right.
60, 59, 50, no, I'm
right.
joking. Go on, far away.
Right. The burqa is used. The burqa is used for an invisible person. It's used for a weapon. You cannot know who's who. European countries and other countries, right, who have not put a block on it, right, I don't understand it because Muslim countries have done it. Maybe it's because, right, it's security. It makes sense. Women.
I think it's a bit more. I think I agree with you.
Just 1 minute.
Go on.
You've got
Sorry.
60 seconds, right?
I'm listening.
Right. women are given a look as weak, right? So maybe that's used, like for us, like with them wearing it, that other people think, oh, well, that's okay. Like, you don't see men wearing it because we blow them out. Women, it's like sympathy. We don't need that, like at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, regarding, I've got 2 more here, right? And the women that do wear them, they need help in different ways. It's not a one-way thing. And the people that support it, right, absolutely sick to me guts, right, that people, especially women, right, who support it. It absolutely knocks me sick. And as a woman, I know, right, that the burqa, right, is definitely not got nothing to do with the Muslim religion. And the reason why I know that, because of my age, where I lived, right, I lived in a diverse area, right, in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, which was in Moss Side, right, and with the grace of God, no woman in them days, right, were allowed or even looked upon, right, to wear this kind of stuff. It's utterly disgusting and it needs sorting out. And the woman in Australia, she must have been desperate. I don't know if she's done it the right way or the wrong way.
I don't think it's a bad way. I think she's trying to illustrate what the burqa is like. She was wearing one of those really hideous, all over ones, just a little bit of netting where you can just about see the eyes. Remember, Carol, by the way, in Afghanistan, they've just come up with the humdinger to beat them all, the burqa in which there's only one eye. So the women can only see out of one eye. Now, my point about this is, as I said earlier to Khadija, the Muslim journalist who came on, I'm slightly, I don't like the idea of telling women or anybody what they can and cannot wear. However, I'm sort of distrustful of all these Islamic women who say, oh, we want to do this. It's our religion. We're very clean. We're very happy to do this. I'm not convinced about this. I can't imagine why any woman would say, I want to be covered up from the world. I want to be closed off from the rest of the world. I think they are slaves to a doctrine that needs to be challenged. A lot of religions have very medieval throwbacks and they change as the times progress, and that's what I think the Muslim faith should do about the burqa, and I think we should ban it. You made your point very well, Carol. I've got to go now because the show's going out towards the 9 o'clock news, but really good to talk to you. Thank you very much. Excellent call. Carol in Manchester there. Now, when we come back after the news, we're going to be talking about the business of revealing whether or not suspects in serious crimes are asylum seekers. Should we do it or should we not? That next. Stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now, you remember the Southport horror? Was it 2 summers ago? You know, that terrible slaughter at the dance hall, and there was a whole world of confusion after it because, let's face it, we were kept in the dark about the nature of who the perpetrator was, the suspect, Axel Rudiker. We didn't know who it was then. We were told, no problem, it's a Welsh choir boy, it's a, you know, so on and so forth. And what we weren't told was he was the son of migrants from Rwanda, and there was really a story that we should have been interested in. Subsequent to that, the authorities and the police in particular have decided, and I think it's right, that in cases of serious crimes, when people are accused of serious crimes, charged with them, or just arrested because of them, if the suspect is an asylum seeker or a migrant, we should be told, and we have been told over the past few months. It's a better situation. If you don't tell people information, you create a vacuum into which disinformation tumbles. So we've been naming suspects, saying if they're asylum seekers or not now for some months. But there's a big campaign going on to stop doing that. And the Runnymede Trust and 50 other pressure groups are demanding that the policy in England and Wales is scrapped. They say that revealing the ethnicity, the asylum seeker status, the migrant status of suspects is racist, and it sows the seeds of division. Those against such a or those who are in favour of it say, well, it's only fair, it's transparency, the public have got a right to know. They've got a right to know the effects, if you like, of 15 years of migration policies by various useless governments. So transparency or not transparency, that is the question. So I thought we sort of try and thrash this out on both sides of the argument. So in the studio, I've got former Met Police Detective Mike Neville. Hi, Mike.
Good evening, Kevin.
And Mike is going to put the case for continuing to tell people whether or not suspects in serious crimes are asylum seekers or migrants. And someone who believes that we should stop disclosing this information is Barrister Paula Roan-Adrian. Welcome, Paula.
Good evening, Kevin. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Good to have you on the show. Well, let's, you ladies first. Is that sexist? I don't know. So you tell us why you think the police should cease telling us whether or not suspects in serious crimes are asylum seekers or migrants.
So at the moment, as far as I'm aware, and Mike will obviously correct me, but the guidelines do not suggest that we should know the immigration status of a suspect, because, of course, it isn't relevant, Kevin, where the person came from or what the person looked like. Identity characteristics are in no way assist the police in understanding why or whether a person has committed a crime. And we've got no expertise, no logic, no research, nothing that backs up the suggestion that I come from East London and therefore I have a propensity to commit a crime, in the same way as I was born in Jamaica and therefore I have a propensity to commit a particular crime. I'm really concerned and disappointed by Yvette Cooper and the Labour government for supporting what is this racist approach, because it isn't anything other than that. It's identity policing. It's about cultural policing. It's about racial profiling, all of which we know is being found to be totally irrelevant and unreliable when it comes to properly policing society and keeping us safe.
I'm going to bring Mike in just a second, but just to play devil's advocate to you, I take your point. You know, I don't think this is about just saying, oh, well, it's an Eritrean, so what do you expect? I don't think it is about that. I think it's about the reality of what has happened in various areas, what happened in Southport, where it is not revealed who the suspect is, and speculation causes a kind of a frenzy, and we know what happened in Southport. So I think that the authorities, the police, have hit upon what they might be framed as a pragmatic solution. Better to tell people that this was indeed an asylum seeker, or it wasn't an asylum seeker, in order to make sure that misinformation doesn't fill the entire picture. Do you see what I mean?
I don't, and I'm going to.
Well, what do you mean you don't? You don't.
I'm going to.
You don't see what I'm saying. You do see my argument. You're a barrister. You understand my argument.
I understand your argument, but you're wrong. And let me give you.
I wasn't saying. I'm not saying. It wasn't me saying it. I'm saying that the police have pragmatically come to the decision, the conclusion that it's better that the people know. It's better there is transparency here than they don't know, because if they don't know, you end up with situations like Southport. Do you see what I'm saying?
Okay, we ended up with a situation like Southport, and I think this needs to be clarified so everybody understands. We ended up with a situation in Southport for two reasons. Number one, the police were not allowed to tell the public because of the age of the suspect. Yes? The suspect at the time was 17, under 18. For those reasons, they were not allowed to give...
Not a particularly strict rule, though, is it? Because the judge in the end just said, well, never mind that. Let's just name him anyway. So let's not get lost in all these little rules and regulations that are so easily ignored.
It's not little rules and regulations. This is really important, because this is about...
Well, a judge ignored that regulation.
No, the judge didn't ignore it.
He did.
No.
He said you can name him.
Kevin, please, that's not what happened. There is a process. It's called the Contempt of Court Act 1981. And this is what's so important to get across in this discussion. There are things that are happening for a legal reason that you or other members of the public may not understand. But that doesn't mean that what we do is we kowtow to the online mob. The reason why there were the racist riots last year is because the fact is, those people were dysregulated. They were the ones who had...
But you call them, that's a rather a leading thing to say, you call them a racist riot. I don't think necessarily they were racist. Listen, Paula, Mike's been waiting very, very patiently. I was so transfixed by your powerful argument that I've been ignoring him, so I'm going to bring him in now. You have heard what we're discussing here, Mike. Paula is saying, oh, it's the law. It doesn't help at all to reveal who these people are. I'm just saying that I think police took the pragmatic decision that from now on it is better to impose transparency on these situations. It's better for the public to know than when they don't know, because then, as we've seen, all hell can break loose. Your thoughts?
Absolutely. So you saw in Liverpool where they had the terrible business where the man was driving around the car and crashing into people, and that's now subject to trial, but they immediately said it's a white man of British origin who's done that. And I just think sometimes Paula speaks to people, and I hear this, she sounds like a primary school teacher telling everybody that they're rude and silly, the boys should shut up, and people are sick and tired of this. They're sick and tired. Let me speak. Let me speak. Because people have seen this. People have seen.
Let's not talk over each other. Paula, you did speak for 8 minutes. Let Mike speak.
I didn't make personal references.
I'm going to make personal references, and I don't care. I don't care. I don't think I have lost the argument. People see with their own eyes what's going on in this country. They see the amount of crime that's committed. They know now through the benefits of channels like Talk that the politicians are now forced to acknowledge that an Afghani is 20 times more likely to commit sexual assaults than a British-born individual. We know the levels of crime of street. When I was in the 1990s, I revealed to the Commissioner the level of crime that young black men committed in relation to robberies. The solution to that was not to deal with the problem, it was to shut him down. To every time where this comes up, there's a real problem. And what I would say is this: The best figures I've heard, in 1951, there were 214 robberies reported in London. The crime rate the population has hardly increased in London since that time. There are now 214 robberies every day, and we've got to debate these things. Are hiding things, concealing things, making people feel that they cannot trust their own eyes is not the way forward.
Yeah, Paula, is not in all circumstances in a Western modern democracy, is not the oxygen of transparency always better than keeping things secret? That's what's at issue here, isn't it?
No, what's on issue here
So you do like the idea of keeping things secret from the public?
I'm very much an uncensored girl, Kevin, and you know that.
But you want to censor this kind of information?
As I said, I'm very much an uncensored girl.
Yeah, but you want to censor the information about asylum.
I'm not censoring the information.
Well, why can't we know it then? Why can't we know that information then?
What I'm doing is I'm following a legal process.
I don't care about your legal process. I'm a member of the member of the public. Look, I'm sorry, Paula. We do not bow down to your little legal traditions. We're not interested. We're members of the public. We've got a right to know.
No, you don't have a right to know.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Right, Kevin, you're not allowing me to finish my sentence.
You just said we haven't got a right to know. I think you rather buried yourself there,
right,
Paula.
Kevin,
I'm feeling like we're ganging up on you. I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's absolutely fine. You do not have a right to know. Nobody has a right necessarily to anything.
I do. I feel I've got a right to know everything I should know.
Okay, you're going to let me finish. I know.
All right, then, go on.
In this situation, what has happened in Southport was in relation to a child who was suspected of committing.
So a judge decided, well, maybe he's not a child.
You need to understand that there was a process to follow, Kevin, before.
Well, change the process. It's rubbish.
Well, that's fine.
Okay, fine. Let's do it. Let's do it. So we did change it. We did change it. We started saying.
And I'm waiting for Mike to correct me. We haven't changed it yet. But what I'm trying to say to you is there's a process to follow. What you don't do is govern by mob rule. So because I demand to know something, therefore I should have it. That's not how we live in a society that applies the rule of law. What we do is we ensure that the police and the justice system can convict. What we don't want to happen, surely, is for a defence lawyer to say, what we don't want to happen is for a defence lawyer to say, well, this jury is going to be biased because look at how the journalists...
Well, look, yeah, okay, all right.
Can I interject?
I've got that point, Paula. Let Mike respond.
Can I say that I'm sure Paula had no problem with Keir Starmer denouncing every single person involved at Southport was a far-right thug. It's a one-way street all the time. And what people have been doing for the last 50 years, the population has been gaslit. They've not been able to discuss these things. There is a real racial element to crime. Trevor Phillips, who's a wonderful journalist, has exposed all these things. And we can't carry on where people are just told, stop looking. And Douglas Murray described this as the crime of noticing. And when you start noticing, for example, the reason that many white and Sikh girls were raped, murdered, assaulted in all those northern towns and places like Telford and Oxford was exactly because of this, because the population were not allowed to notice what was going on. And you can take your legal arguments and all your silly rules because they only apply one way. Yeah. And we're sick and tired of them applying one way. And you can talk to us all like you're the primary school teacher telling us all off for playing us in the dirt.
Primary school teacher.
That's what it sounds like. And we've had enough of it. And the worm is turning and people are now seeing. And I saw it because I'm one of those wicked and evil racist police officers in London who did all these wicked things. But people now who live in Epping, Stafford, all these places where Crowborough, they're now seeing the facts and they've had enough of it.
And what would you say, Paula, to the public who might say, how dare you tell us that we don't have the right to know anything? How dare you tell us that?
So I'm not telling the public that they don't.
You just told us. You told me that we don't have a right to know this stuff. You just told me that.
What I told you was that there is a process that has to be...
Yeah, but look, we're basically saying, Paula, you can take your process and stick it where the sun don't shine.
I'm not sure you want to hear what I've got to say.
We are listening to what you say. Go on.
I hope so. So, in terms of your right to know something, people assume that it's automatic. And so what I'm trying to say to you is...
Should be, shouldn't it, really?
No, absolutely.
See, there you go again. There you go again. I'm a member of the public in a democracy. I've got a right to know. Who are you to tell me I haven't got the right to know something? That you only use special lawyers and use special judges and use special top coppers have got a right to know.
There will be a bias. And that bias will mean that there is a trial that doesn't go ahead, where there's a perpetrator that does not see conviction, does not get sentenced, because the defence lawyer says, well, this...
Yeah, well, that hasn't happened yet, has it? That hasn't happened. When has that happened?
Can I just ask Mike,
Has that ever happened? Paula, has that ever happened?
She's asking me a question,
Mike and yourself, if it is the case that you want to police by ethnicity or police by culture, then by all means do so. But understand that everyone, therefore, has to be policed by race and culture. And is that what Mike is suggesting should happen? Because we've looked at that, haven't we, Mike? And the reports from independent bodies have come back and said that it's a complete and utter waste.
Can I answer, Paula? Can I answer that? No. Can I answer that question? No. Can I answer that?
Go on.
So for example, you're saying, and what we hear from the Baroness Casey report, for example, is that the police are wicked and evil and racist because young black men are stopped 7 times more than anybody else. If the police were so wicked and evil, they would really target elderly Asian ladies who couldn't fight back. Why would you fight young black men who are good and strong? But why the police cannot help who commits crime. They cannot help that young black men are committing 3% of London's population are committing 60% of the knife murders. Those officers who are out and about today, those young officers, men and women of all colours and creeds, who are just dealing with what they have, they simply have to deal with the crime that occurs before them. It's not their fault that the person who committed it was black. Very few Asian elderly people commit crime, so very few elderly Asian people ever get arrested. And so it's a complete mess. But people like yourselves have made a career on banging on about racism. What's the question then? Ask me the question, I'll answer it.
My question. My question is, and this is really goes to the...
Can I just leave you to it? I'm just going down the pub. Is that all right?
Mike and I will join you. It's okay.
Yeah, okay. It'll be a lively drinking session.
A large red wine, please.
Yeah, let's do it.
So what I want to say to Mike is, look, of course I understand what the members of the public feel and fear. That is my biggest fear. The fact that I think the members of the public are being misled. But if we do go down this road, because it seems like we've kind of forgotten about asylum seekers now, and Mike, you just seem to be referencing young black males, but if we are going to go down this road of identity policing, then we do it for everybody.
Yeah, but I would just say, listen, I'm going to have to bring...
Is that not right, Kevin?
Well, kind of. I would just say...
Well, that wouldn't be racist then, would it?
I'm trying to be sort of neutral here, but, obviously I'm sort of leaning towards Mike's side of the argument. But I did think he made a very good point. That if we don't reveal the ethnicity, or more to the point, the asylum seeker status of people who perpetrate or are accused of serious crimes, as I say, you create this vacuum of disinformation, and that can cause trouble. And as Mike said, look at the situation in Liverpool with that guy who drove through the crowd causing all that chaos and carnage. The police swiftly said it's not an asylum seeker. This is an English guy, white guy. You see what I mean? So it's important on both sides. It's important on both sides. It's important
No, we're feeding a beast that will never be satiated.
Well, I'm not sure you're right there. I think the beast is. I think the beast has been nicely satiated by the revelation of ethnicity, or not so much ethnicity, more asylum seeker or migrant status. I think it has helped.
It has helped. Been an English white man? What if Paul Doyle hadn't been an English white man?
Well, then they would have revealed he was an asylum seeker.
And what would have happened then? Well, we know what would have happened then.
Nothing, I don't think. Nothing, no, not necessarily. You can't keep... No, Paula. Keeping secrets from the people is always a bad idea. It's what happens in North Korea and Russia and China. You don't want to keep secrets from the people. But listen, that was great. Listen, Paula, fantastic. Thank you very much. Let's have a drink soon. I'd enjoy that. Let's Paula Roan Adrian Barrister. She's a very nice lady. I've known her for years. And, of course, the great Mike Neville, former Met Police detective. Very nice man. I've known him for years as well. I, of course, remain studiously neutral on this issue. Let me know what you think, though. 0344 499 1000. Should we stop revealing whether or not the suspects in serious crimes are asylum seekers, or should we carry on telling the people? 0344 499 1000. Your calls when we come back. Stick around.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Time now for your calls, for your messages, for your WhatsApp voice notes. Got a very nice message here. Where is it? Yeah, here it goes from Leslie. This is the greatest compliment I've ever received. Leslie, this is to the Talk, the station. Your presenter, that's me, is very good at announcing the Talk phone number. Unlike other presenters who announce the phone number so fast. So 034, I can't even remember it now, 03499 1000. I've got it wrong now, 0344. Fuck, I can't remember it now. But yeah, I mean, thank you very much for that. What the hell is it? 0344 499 1000. Just remembered it there. 0344 499 1000. Couldn't even remember it. I thought, why can't I remember it? I say 100 times a day. Anyway, let's listen to a WhatsApp voice note. This is Pete on puberty blockers.
I'm absolutely outraged, Kevin, at this puberty blockers scandal. Experimenting on kids under 16. They don't know their own mind. And if they're allowed to get away with this, who's the next one to start on the experiment list? Disabled people, maybe? Old people? You know, if it's allowed to go on and it's allowed to be seen as okay, it moves on to somebody else, doesn't it? And what about them poor kids? I can see millions and billions of pounds in compensation claims there, right? The parents should be prosecuted for allowing their kids to take part in this, and so should the doctors. What is it, doctors, their oath, do no harm?
Yeah, well, they're kind of doing harm here, if you ask me. Don't forget that for quite a few deranged years, the NHS did sponsor this, you know, give kids who think they're in the wrong body puberty blockers to stop them developing so that, you know, they can feel better about them. So they did this for a long, long time. And then Wes Streeting, to his credit, last December said no more. Just because some kid says, I think I'm in the wrong body. We don't give him or her life-changing drugs that they will never recover from. These drugs affect you for the rest of your life. Nothing you can do about it. So Wes Streeting said no more of that. But he did put in the caveat saying, unless it's a sort of clinical research trial. And that's what this is being framed at. 226 children, will be used as guinea pigs in a chemical experiment. Pharmaceutical mutilation, I would suggest that is. Pharmaceutical mutilation. 0344 499 1000. Absolutely appalling. Let's speak to Kevin in northwest London. He wants to talk about that crazy access to work scheme that gives up to £70,000 worth of free gadgets to people who've got jobs. What's that about, Kev?
Thank you, Kevin. Basically, I'm a little bit disappointed and a bit panicked.
Yeah.
I'm actually a severely disabled person. I'm actually registered blind and I've got other health conditions.
Right.
I actually work with a lot of companies, and I travel around the country providing support and training for people who are blind and visually impaired in work for access software, so they can they can do their work. Without that, the problem is, and I'll admit that there probably is people that take advantage, but calling for access to work to be stopped will actually put jobs for disabled people in
well, that's not the reason anyone would call for it to be scrapped, Kevin. It is that able-bodied people, not disabled people, not mentally afflicted people, mentally challenged people, that people who are in work, who've got a job, are being given as much as £70,000 a year to pay for things like sunlight alarm clocks, work coaches, noise-cancelling headphones, wobble boards, Apple smart watches. You would see that as taxpayers, we ought not to really be footing the bill for all of that. Don't you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree that things like that. But I've just worked with someone who's just lost their sight completely. They're on a minimum wage job.
Yeah.
The software for them to use the computer is £1,000, which they don't have.
Right.
The problem is, if you scrap this without it being reformed, it needs to be looked at and reformed.
I think you're making a good point here, Kevin. I totally understand what you're saying. I couldn't agree. I take your point. Of course we need a proper scheme to help people perhaps like you or your friend who's totally blind. You know, if they need special equipment to help them work, and they can, like yourself, they can work, then yes, taxpayers should fund the bill to help people like you. But you see what I mean. I would suggest that in this access to work scheme, 320 million quid in a year it costs. That's a lot of money. That a lot of the people benefiting from this, you know, are not people in desperate need like yourself. These are people. I could be earning £1 million a year and still claim on the access to work scheme because there's no restriction on how much money you're bringing in. And you see what I'm saying. I agree with what you're saying. People like yourselves should be helped by taxpayers, but somebody on £1 million a year who works out that the government will give him 70 grand a year, or her, alarm clocks and work coaches and all that nonsense, that's got to stop. Don't you agree?
I agree, but I said, yeah. So I said it's not getting rid of the scheme or things like. It's actually looking at reform and putting onus on the DWP to make sure it's spent
the proper. Exactly. Reduce the number of people who can technically apply for it. Do you see what I mean? At the moment, anyone can apply for it. Anyone, and they do. And that's why it's costing 320 million quid a year. And the idea that if I'm earning £1 million a year, trust me, Kevin, I'm not, but if I was, and that I can still apply in a form, an application form that takes 20 minutes to fill in, you don't need a doctor's certificate, you don't need a diagnosis, just say that you've got these problems, neurological, physical, mental, and you will get what you want. That's not right. I mean, I would suggest to help people like yourselves, there should be medical certificates, doctor's approval involved in the system, don't you think?
Yeah, because when I did my access to work application many years ago, I was assessed. I actually had to go out, and they the PIP before. I actually had to be assessed.
Yeah, which is sensible.
And but what I'm really worried about, if it's scrapped and things like that, my first job, I've been turned down, discriminated by employers. So, well, you can't do the job, and that's what I'm worried about.
I get that. Yeah,
the first people that are victims in any cuts or anything like that are disabled. An employer is not going to employ a disabled person if they have to spend a couple of £1,000s for equipment.
With you. Absolutely with you, Kevin, and I support you 100%. And one thing that might help, I mean, I think what you and I are both agreeing, if from slightly different directions, is that actually medical supervision of this system would be good. You know, doctors giving diagnoses, approving of someone like you. You know, otherwise, literally the way it is now, Kev, I could put in my form, you know, I'm nearly blind, I need special equipment. Nobody checks it, I'll get the equipment. So it's a disadvantage to people like yourselves. So I totally agree with you. What we need to do with this scheme is to reform it root and branch and make it sensible, make it work for people like you and not work for people on £1 million a year who just fancy a free alarm clock. You with me?
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
All right, Kev, let's agree to agree. Excellent. Good to talk to you and all the best, mate. Thanks for a good call. Kevin in northwest London. He does have a point there. I totally agree with that, but you heard the point I'm making. As I say, I could actually put on this form that I'm I'm nearly blind, or I only got one leg or whatever. Nobody checks it. Nobody checks it. So you get what you ask for. 20 minutes, apparently, it takes to fill the form in. This is crazy. That's got to stop. Shall we talk to the great Tarquin in London? Hi, Tark. What's up?
The greatest show on earth.
That's why I take the calls from you, so you say this stuff.
Drive time over to the Political Asylum. You are listening to 0344 499 1000.
Yeah, I'm glad you can remember the number. I just forgot it, but yeah.
I ring you every bloody night virtually, don't I? What a fucking sad long.
Yeah, you got it on speed dial this show, haven't you? Yeah. What do you want to talk about the BBC? Yeah.
Yeah. I just thought when something you mentioned up at the front end of the show, I just caught a little bit of it, Kevin, and I rang in, and you get in the queue, they get in the callback list, and what it was, I couldn't believe what you said. Is this true that those two oafs that got sacked for their... Well, no, they resigned. They officially resigned.
Yeah, Tweedledee and Tweedledum. The departing... The Director-General, Tim Davie, who was earning £547,000 a year, and the Head of News, Deborah Turness, who was earning £431,000 a year. Between them, they're going to walk away with more than £500,000 worth of payoff. Severance pay, if you like. Now, in the normal system, if my company, and I imagine with me it's only a matter of time, if they came to me and said, look, we've got to make cutbacks, I'm afraid, redundos and all that, I'm afraid we're going to have to ask you to leave the company. It's not my decision, so the system is, of course, quite rightly, I get compensation, I get redundancy payment. That's how it goes. If I resign, they don't owe me any money. So why do they owe this pair of chancers any money? Why?
And also, given that that's the case, Kevin, then surely that money's actually coming out of our taxpayers' money.
Well, of course it is. This is the BBC gravy train. Yeah. Fun, come one, come all. In the old days, the robber barons used to take our taxes. They used to rob us dry. Now, because of their land, we had to farm their land, so they used to tax us up to here so that we could, make them rich. Now, what do the robber barons do? They join the BBC, and then the BBC hits us with this annual 180 quid a year. And what do they do with the 3.8 billion quid a year we give them annually? They spread it amongst themselves. They split it amongst themselves. Hundreds of them earning 100,000, 200,000, 300,000 a year. Hundreds and hundreds of thousands a year of these middle management people who do jobs you can't even really work out what they are. So all of that has to end. And here we have it. More of the gravy train. £500,000 for Debs and Tim Davie. Unbelievable. Tarquin, with you. Severance pay, they don't deserve it. They shouldn't get a penny. They screwed up. They're the architects of the BBC's downfall. Why are they getting rewarded? Welcome to the BBC. Welcome to the state broadcaster. Tarquin, good to talk to you as always. Let's go to break. When we come back, more of your calls, more of your messages, more of your WhatsApp voice notes.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Lots and lots of notes, messages. I've got text messages about the burqa. Yeah, these are people's opinions, so I'm just relaying what they're telling me. This is Vic. She says to me, Kev, never apologise for defending women's and girls' rights to freedoms. The burqa is regressive, barbaric and misogynist. It is appalling that Western, allegedly progressive countries allow certain groups of women to be forced and or coercively controlled to live in a cloth prison. Sarah Sharif should have been a defining moment for this country in disallowing this repressive clothing. God bless Sarah. That's from Vic. What do you think? Khadija Khan, who was my guest earlier, talking about this, a Muslim lady who wants to ban the burqa. Someone saying she loved Khadija, she speaks so much sense. MJ says it should be banned. And Mel from Suffolk said the headscarf originally was about class, not religion. It was primarily used to identify ladies from well-off families. Slaves or lower class did not wear them. Unfortunately, it is now used as a way to control women. I didn't know that. I don't even know it's true, but MJ says that. Who am I to disagree? Let's go back to WhatsApp voice notes, shall we? Let's play Rob on puberty blockers.
Hi, Kev. I just want to make this brief point about puberty blockers and kids. I find it absolutely abhorrent. And if they were to propose doing this experiment on 220 beagles, the RSPCA would have been all over this in a flash and, shut it down. You know, clearly this government and West treating think that, children are less valuable than beagles, for God's sake.
In a way, yeah. I mean, I just can't believe they say, oh, well, it's just, we've got to find out. I thought we'd already been through this puberty blocker saga. I thought we'd already made a national decision that they're wrong. That children should not be forced to take these drugs, and if they make a decision they want to take them, if they're, say, 14, 15, then adults have to say, tell you what, maybe not, eh? Are they old enough to make these decisions, particularly if they're younger than that? So, yeah, there is a big problem here. But here we are saying, well, what? You know, here we are in 2025. What mental and physical effects do these puberty-blocking drugs really have on kids? Let's try it out on 226 of them. Let's see what happens to 226 kids. See if it screws them up. Because we'll find, let's get, guinea pigs. What about those 226 kids? It's like, no, stop this insanity. Leave them alone. Leave them alone. As I say, I see this as pharmaceutical mutilation. What do you think? 0344 499 1000. Let's go back to the phones. Let's talk to Peter in Manchester. Hello, Peter.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks for having me on.
Pleasure.
Yeah, I love talk. I find it very addictive.
Good. Is that a healthy addiction, that is, Peter? Anyway, you want to talk about the burqa, yeah?
Yeah. I think it's something that's not been taken into consideration is, I think it's male-dominated. How many women would not want to wear them and be afraid to be seen in public because they know when they get back home, the husband and family, they'd end up in AEI with a fractured eye socket.
Well, let's not necessarily go down that route, but I agree with you in theory. It seems to me that this entire ethos, the Muslim ethos about women wearing the burqa, is male-oriented and against women. It isn't good for women, fine for men, I guess. The whole idea is supposed to be that if lusty men look upon women's flesh, they will be seized by an uncontrollable desire to defile these women. Ludicrous in itself, but that's the idea. And it consigns women to the ranks of second-class citizens, and I don't like that. And I'm uncomfortable comfortable about telling women what they can and cannot wear. But I suppose in the end, Peter, you've got to come down on one side of the fence. And I say the burqa is misogynistic, and therefore we as a society, like so many other countries, 18 countries around the world, including quite a few Muslim countries, have decided it is not right and they are banned. So why can't we join the gang?
Well, I reckon there's a lot of women afraid not to wear it.
I agree with that. That's what worries me, because women, I've had these kind of phone-ins and discussions before, and Muslim women ring me up and say, how dare you tell us what to wear? This is our decision, this is our religion. And you think, well, either there's some kind of coercive control going on with the men in your life, or you're brainwashed by this religion. You're brainwashed by the medieval tenets of this religion, and you think it's right to do this. I cannot believe that any woman really deep down thinks it can be right for them to cover everything about themselves for all of their lives. I just can't believe it.
I only wish I was one of these people that could leave the country. It's unfortunate, not one of those, but I think it's Great Britain now, it's a sinking ship.
Well, that's just maybe. I've got no objection to our Islamic community. I'm a fan of the multicultural society, but I think we're not handling it well. We're not handling it at all well. And I think we ought to look at the burqa just like France did, just like Austria did, just like Tunisia did, and say, no, this is wrong, and ban it. That's my view. 03444991000. Well, it's time. Let's talk to Georgina in London. Hello, Georgina.
Good evening, Kevin. Listen, I've got a few things I want to say about these puberty blockers for children. I'm just going to rattle on, Kevin, and when the break comes, just switch me off. OK?
Well, the break's in 20 minutes, but I know I can rely on you never to stop. But seriously.
OK, well, I can't believe that in the 21st century, Big Pharma, with the sanctioning of doctors and our government, have given the OK to experiment on 226 children. The last time I've heard of children being guinea pigs and experimented on was in the concentration camps in the Second World War. It's absolutely abhorrent, Kevin. For God's sake, people protest if the pharmaceutical companies experiment on animals, like that other gentleman's just said. So where's the outcry for this? Once these children have started medication and had gender-altering operations, there's no going back. The damage is done. And children cannot make life-altering decisions. You know, at that age, you can't buy a pack of cigarettes, you can't get a drink in a pub. You may be able to vote soon. But, you know, that's why children are supposed to have adult supervision. So what in God's name and where are the so-called adults in the building?
Again, Georgina, let's go back to the basics on this. What they're saying is, these puberty blockers, which I thought we'd managed to eradicate, we've finally say, look, don't give these to kids, because once you give them to, say, a 13-year-old boy or a 15-year-old girl, it changes their lives forever. Physically, they will never change. They will never recover from that. These are life-changing drugs. So what we're saying is, we're a bit worried they might have a bad physical and mental effect on kids. We're not sure. How are we going to find this out? Oh, I know. Let's get 226 kids and use them as guinea pigs. See how it all works out. We have to do something to save those 226 kids. This is a disgrace.
It's more than that. This is no more than gross child abuse.
I agree with you.
That any adult in their right mind would agree with this kind of abuse and child mutilation. The government bodies and so-called medical professionals should be severely held to account for this dangerous decision that's going to ruin lives. It is them that need medication to remedy the obvious mental illnesses that they have, to have sanctioned this decision in the first place. And of course, Big Pharma will be earning, as it always does, because instead of these children getting counselling and the help they need to ease their anxieties, doctors and government bodies would prefer to pump them full of drugs. Also, schools have got to stop pushing all this woke ideology, as I feel the majority of these problems are exacerbated by the pandering and abject stupidity of some of the teachers that are supposed to be teaching our children now. You know, that they're to help them to read and do maths, not to indoctrinate them with nonsensical woke ideologies.
Yeah, absolutely. And but just to come back to this, is an experiment. This is a chemical experiment on 226 children. A chemical experiment. See how it works out. Are they mad? This is just outrageous. It's outrageous. Georgina, I couldn't agree with you more. Thanks for another excellent call. Always a pleasure to talk to Georgina in London, one of our regulars, obviously. Before we go to break, I'll just read a quick note. This is from Rob. He said, Kev, there is no such thing as a... This is Rob's views. Don't forget, I'm just reading out what people think. There is no such thing as a trans child. It's a grotesque lie. I'm a gay man, and I remember being attracted to my own sex when I was young growing up. These days I'd be told I was in the wrong body, and God knows how that would have worked out for me. This sounds like some awful sick experiment. Leave kids alone to grow up to be whoever they are. Rob in London. And he's right. While the Tavistock Clinic was still in its prime, while the Frankenstein's Castle was still firing on all cylinders, some parents took their kids to school because they didn't want to that clinic because they didn't want their kids to be gay. So if they had a gay boy, they prefer to get that gay boy turned, if you like, into a kind of facsimile of a girl, so operated on and all that, because then the girl wouldn't be gay. I mean, that's the madness we're talking about. That cannot happen. That's got to stop. Let's go to break. When we come back, still time for another couple of calls and WhatsApp voice notes. Stick around.
Big news coming this December. Our talkTV app is moving to the Talk app. You can watch, catch up and listen to all your favourite shows and podcasts anytime, anywhere, all on the Talk app. From Monday, 1st of December, the talkTV app will no longer exist, so don't miss out. So head over to your App Store or Google Play and search Talk now.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. WhatsApp voice notes. Don't forget, Petri Huff's going to be in after the 10 o'clock news, and she'll take you through to 1 a.m. Into the small hours. Should be a great show. Now, this is Sharon on COP30.
Hi, Kev. This COP30, they weren't there just for to save the planet. They were there to slice up the rest of the cake that they're all going to be earning off it. They were all there doing deals and who's going to get more of this and who's going to get more of that. That's all they're there at COP30 for. Nowhere anything to do with the Earth.
Yeah, it's a festival of selfishness. You're right, Sharon. Here's Claire on police disclosure.
You need to get over yourselves. If you deal with the facts are the facts, and you cannot change that. Let's start there, and then let's deal with the issues and the problems at hand, rather than tiptoeing around every issue, every faith. Just literally sick and tired of hearing why we have to tiptoe around different cultural groups. I don't care what cultural group you're from. What I care is whether you abide by our laws, you don't cause heinous crimes, you integrate correctly, and you also want to come to this country, contribute your skills to a workforce where we can all grow and prosper together. That is it. It really isn't that difficult, but it's proven to be so.
Thank you, Claire. Very quick last call. I haven't got long, but let's talk to Jane in Marbella in Spain. Hi, Jane.
Hi, Kevin. I have the most charming Iranian neighbours. If you didn't know, you would think they were European, until they go to Iran, when the wife and daughter of 17 wears a burqa, which is no longer mandatory. And the wife said to me, the only reason I do it is out of respect to the older generation.
I'm not sure that's true. I reckon she thinks it's safer. It's a better policy to go along with the burqa idea, even though it's not legally mandatory in Iran. It's best to show your Islamic devotion in that country. Do you see what I mean?